Hello. My name is Ivan. I'm an artist. Welcome back to my channel. Yesterday I have been working on these two pages for my sketchbook, and it is my sketchbook. I called it Ivan versus World. So it's like a little space for me to where I'm making the exploration of the stuff I don't know that good, like different animals, like drawing hands. This time it's about the knights. So as you can tell, I made like a small exploration or study of like knights armor, different types of the helmets, and how the legs are actually protected, and all these like fancy French names, stuff like that, all the different like pieces. So it's not a comprehensive study. It just I'm trying to enrich my visual library, I'd say, because my understanding before this was much more vague, so very basic understanding, and now I know like there's like a small hinges here and small belts, and this like leg is constructed of many pieces to be flexible. And so this is the very same is for the arms and stuff like that. So yeah, it's my little study, and I decided, so maybe I can make a video not about the drawings, because it's basically the same I did before, but maybe I can make a video with the hints for you guys how to actually render, how to draw the reflective surface of the metals. So the first thing I wanted to say is, I think the key to understanding how to render metal shiny surfaces is actually drawing shiny metal is basically drawing a simple landscape. So you need to have, you can make it like a thumbnail if you want, or you can just keep inside of your head like a small primitive landscape, like so. It might be not a landscape, it could be something else. It's just what I'm using because it's the simplest one, I guess. So let me just recreate it, I guess, and explain why. So for good reflections you need enough contrast in the surroundings, because if the surroundings is very dull, less contrasty, very gray, the reflections, they won't look that good. So, and for enough of the contrast, what I'm using is like basically just the very simplified landscape with the horizon line, the darker ground tone, maybe with some gradient, a little bit of gradient if possible, a little bit of gradient in the sky from dark to bright, so we have this very distinct horizon line with enough of the contrast. And also you can put like a small object here, maybe like a tree, or it might be a building, it might be anything else, it might be something abstract. You just need something, maybe you don't, who knows. I mean, it depends on your level of details you're looking for. Sometimes just the horizon line is enough, actually. Yeah, another object could be the sun, because it's very bright and it helps to bring some contrast to the highlights, I guess. And after that, like having this landscape, I think it's a 50% of a success. And now we just need to somehow apply this landscape over the primitive forms. The sphere, the cylinder, the cone, the cube, obviously, the cube. So, and now we need to somehow apply this landscape over each of these primitives. So the horizontal cylinder as well is needed. So I think this is enough. So basically each of these primitives, they use its own rules how to reflect the environment. And the feature of the sphere is the fact it reflects everything. It reflects this whole landscape. So the only difference is it is distorted. So in the middle portion of a sphere, this one, will only reflect the small portion of a landscape, and these like sides, they will reflect the rest of the landscape. So that's why here, for example, on my drawing, you see like almost no details in the middle, and you see the whole tree but very distorted on the edge. That's why. That's how the sphere works. So everything is like bended around basically and distorted from the center to the side, so you have more information on the sides actually. All right, next one is the cylinder. The cylinder is kind of similar to a sphere, but also very different. So the similar fact is that it reflects a lot of information on this like x-axis. So basically the x-axis is equal to this x-axis, but the y-axis is only taking the smaller portion. So basically the cylinder, it's taking this like small stripe in the middle, all of the x-axis, and almost no from the y-axis, x, y, x, y, and it stretches all of the y on the surface of a cylinder. So basically it's stretching the y like so. So that's why you see in a lot of these vertical lines. And this black line, this one is basically a part of a tree, like some portion of a tree here being stretched on all of the body of the cylinder. That's how the cylinder works. The horizontal cylinder, it works absolutely the same. It just takes the different axes. So it's taking like this rectangle maybe, something like that, you know. So it takes all of the information from the y-axis, and it takes the portion of the x and it stretches it to the sides. So basically that's why you see in here like a very stretched tree. Yeah, and but you also see like all of the information from the very top of the sky to the very bottom of the ground. That's why. The concave cylinder is the same. You just need to invert the y-axis, so everything is inverted. If you make in a concave sphere, something like this, you also need to invert the y-axis. All right, what is left? The cone. Cone is basically, it's a very simple one. It's basically the cylinder. You just need to compress one of the ends into a very point. So all of these lines, they will come to just one point. That's how it works. And the cube, on the one side it's very simple again, but it's tricky because actually flat surfaces, they are reflect only like a very small portion, just something will be reflected. So this whole surface, like big surface of a cube, it will only reflect like one small something from your environment. So it will never reflect like a whole tree, you know, in the sun here. It will look awful. So don't do this. Just put some abstract shading, like it reflects something. Leave the edges like with the bright highlight, I guess. And this one, because it's facing upward, so probably it is reflecting more of the sky. So just put like a small gradient maybe here on the top. To me, actually, the cubes, they are more tricky because they are simpler, but they only reflect the very, very small portion, and you're always guessing like what exactly to show on the cube. So I'm actually struggling with the cubes much more than I do with the cones, cylinders, or spheres. So yeah, that's the primitives. That's how they works, I guess. And the last point for today is actually, maybe you noticed that I'm actually very often leaving this like white rim around, like a white outline almost around this, like, let me zoom in, around this like sphere, the cylinder, the cone as well. It has this like lines on the edges. This helmet, these armor pieces also. This helmet has this like white lines. This one as well. So it is a very stylized approach, but it works because it's Well, kinda relatively realistic, and I will explain why this happens. So it happens because the light behaves like so, I guess. So let's say this is the surface and this is your light, and it comes with this like very steep angle. And if you put a camera or your eye here, this is the sun, for example. So the probability of a reflection at this steep angle is actually very low. So you probably will see the own color of the surface from this angle. But if the light comes from a very sharp angle like this, so let's say this is the sun, or another source of the light, so, and your camera is here, this is the camera, so the probability of a reflection or under this like very sharp angle is much higher. So let's say this is like 5% and this may be 80%. So that's why you will see a lot of reflection if the light comes from under this like very sharp angle. Yeah, and I think it's the very same principle as let's say this is the pier, and this is water, and this is you throwing these like flat stones to the lake, whatever, and they jump like a frogs, you know, like pam pam pam, and that happens because this angle is actually very sharp, and the probability of a reflection of the flat stone is actually high enough to jump from the surface of the water. That's what happens. And when you're looking at the distance of some water, because of this, again, a very sharp angle, at the distance you probably will see the reflection of something, the reflection of the sky, reflection of the sun, or some trees on another bank, whatever, reflection of something. But if you're looking down here under your foot, basically, with very steep angle, probably you will see the bottom of this water body, or the water itself, the color of the water itself, the fish, whatever. And you will see much less reflections because the probability is much lower again. So that's what happens, and why I'm talking about this, because that's what happens when you're looking at the curvy surfaces. So let's say this is your curvy surface, and this is your eye or camera, doesn't matter. So this curvy surface, it could be some sphere again, it could be a cylinder. So by curvy surface, I mean this curvy surface, this kind of stuff. It could be a shoulder, you know, of some character. It also has these like curvy surfaces. They bend it around, so something bend it around. So when you're looking at it, like this middle portion, it's probably the probability of reflection here is much lower because, you know, this angle is very steep. But on the edges, the probability raises because the reflection, and because the angle of the reflection is much more sharp. So that's why here on the edges you probably will see more reflection over surroundings of this primitive landscape or whatever you have. All right, I think that's it. Little educational video from me. So again, please don't take it too serious. I'm not a like a professional teacher, and this is not a comprehensive guide, just a couple of life hacks, I guess, on how to draw these shiny surfaces. Yeah, primitives are very useful because everything is made out of the primitives. So as you can see, like this, the helmet is basically a sphere. This visor is basically like a half of a cylinder, I guess. This funky nose piece of armor is basically a cone. Everything is like made out of smaller cylinders, spheres, cylinders, spheres, cylinders. So you got the idea, right? Okay. Yeah, I think that's it for today. Let me know if you find it useful, and how do you like my drawings of the nights, and see you next time.